Hi, welcome to the 10 tips for licensing more of your music video tutorial. And during this video, I'm going to talk about 10 ways that you can license more of your music more often. And these tips, by the way, are in no particular order. There are 10 different things that you can do that will help you license more of your music. So here we go. Number one, the first thing you can do is write music that works for television and film. So music that gets licensed for use in television and film has a particular role to play. And generally speaking, music is used to support the context of whatever the storyline is and whatever the scene is that the music is being used in. So it's impossible to predict unless you're writing for a specific project how your music is going to be used, but there are some general guidelines that you can think about that if you're aware of will help you write music and submit music that works better than other things for, in the context of television and film. So I'm not going to go into really great detail, but a few things to think about when you're writing music for television shows and films is that, generally speaking, you want the subject matter, if you're writing songs that have lyrics and have vocals, you want the subject matter of your songs to be general enough to work in a broad variety of situations. So, generally speaking, movies and television shows, the storylines involve relationships. So, generally speaking, relationship songs work really well, love songs about falling in love, falling out of love. Just generally speaking, these songs work in a broad variety of situations. You don't want to submit music, usually, that's really obscure or avant-garde. Typically, music that's more mainstream will work in a wider array of situations. Generally speaking, supervisors are looking for songs that sound like other bands, or songs, famous songs that they can license more affordably. And this is kind of the whole point of licensing. This is why there's an opportunity for independent musicians to license their music, as that supervisors can license indie music more affordably. So the second tip, in terms of what you can do to license more of your music more often, is improve your production. So, this is something that, again, I've talked a lot about and I've written a lot about. Production is really, really important. And, music production is not an exact science. It's not like do A, B, and C and, you're going to meet this thing called broadcast quality. But basically, you want your music to be really well produced. And what I suggest you do, if you're not really sure whether or not your music is good enough production-wise to be licensed in television shows and films, is simply to listen to music that's being licensed. Do some research. Find supervisors' websites or music publishers' websites and listen to music that they're licensing. Oftentimes, publishers and supervisors will list, songs that get licensed, and a lot of publishers, for example, will have, you can stream music directly from their website that's in their catalog. So a great exercise is just to go, if you haven't done this already, but go and listen to music that's out there already being licensed, and that'll give you a really good idea of where your music fits in the spectrum of things production-wise. Okay, the third tip for licensing more of your music is to network more. So, the music licensing business, like the music business in general, is a business that consists of relationships. Publishers and libraries have relationships with supervisors, songwriters have relationships with publishers and libraries, or in some cases supervisors. But it's all about relationships, and the more people you know in the business, the more you're going to find out about opportunities, and the more often people are going to turn to you. So you want to network with people in the business. You can do this a number of ways. You can do this online, by simply reaching out to companies and people working in the music licensing business. You can do this in person by going to seminars and conferences about the music licensing business, or just about the music business in general. You can do this locally. You can use resources like Craigslist and reach out to people in your local community, but you want to know people in the business, and you never know where opportunities are going to come from, and you never know, who's going to introduce you to the right person, or who's going to tell you about an opportunity that might just be your big break. So network, and network. Okay, number 4. The fourth tip is, this is sort of an obvious one, but write more music more often. So the people that I know that are making a full-time income licensing music, generally speaking, have really big catalogs. And it's sort of obvious, but the more songs you have in your catalog, the more opportunities for licensing your music. So I know, for example, with the publisher that I work with, all the writers that she works with that make a full-time living have really large catalogs. And by large, I'm referring to, generally speaking, hundreds of songs. So not just one album or two albums, but generally speaking, hundreds of songs. So you want to work on building up your catalog. It's definitely, licensing is a bit of a numbers game, and the more songs you have in the catalog, the more opportunities where your music will be a good fit for. Okay, number 5, the 5th tip is to submit your music more frequently. Again, this is sort of an obvious one, but you have to constantly be researching opportunities. And, if you want to make a living licensing your music, or even if you want to make a good part-time income from licensing your music, you really need to find out about opportunities as often as possible. And it's sort of a numbers game. I mean, that's just sort of the reality of the music business and the licensing business, is that the more doors you knock on and the more opportunities that you find out about, the greater your chances of success will be. So I have a program that I call the 90-Day Challenge, which I'll be announcing soon. But the whole point of the program is to submit your music once a day for 90 days. And I think, whether you take my program or not, it's a great exercise in general. If you really want to move forward and you want to move forward faster and you want to expedite your success, is, think about every day. Who can you reach out to? Who can you turn to? Who can you introduce yourself to? And if you do this on a consistent basis, you'll build this momentum. And what generally what happens if your music is ready and it's good enough to be licensed is you're going to start getting positive feedback. And maybe you won't sign a licensing deal your first several weeks of doing this, but you'll start getting positive feedback, and it sort of builds this momentum where you build confidence in your music, and it gives you confidence to reach out to even more people. And you keep doing this, and eventually, you're going to connect with the right person who will be able to either license music for you directly or introduce you to someone who, you'll be able to license music through. So submit your music as often as possible. That's kind of the name of the game, assuming your music is ready, to be licensed in the first place. Number 6, this is another tip that another thing that I've mentioned a lot in my newsletters is follow up with everyone, and I mean everyone. Follow up, whether it's, generally speaking, a good sort of rule of thumb is maybe 3 weeks after you make contact with someone or submit your music to someone, follow up with them. This is a fast-paced business, and, a lot of the companies that you're going to be submitting to are small companies that don't necessarily have a huge staff. So you really have to, go above and beyond and follow up with everyone that you come in contact with. It just sends the right signals. Lets them know that you're serious about your music and you're serious about breaking into the business. And it also just simply reminds them of who you are. Sometimes, I know in my own case, I have a small music marketing company, and on a daily basis, I typically get dozens of emails. And it's hard sometimes, when you're submitting to maybe a couple different projects in a day and you're working on 3 or 4 different things, it's hard to get back to everybody. And sometimes you just simply forget about some of the emails you've received. So follow up with everyone. Don't be annoying. Don't email every single day, but follow up. If you don't get a response, follow up 2 or 3 weeks after the fact, and oftentimes that makes the difference, in terms of moving forward with someone or not. Number 7, this is just sort of a again, an obvious one, but keep going. Keep moving forward. It's easy to get discouraged in this business. You have to have thick skin. Not everyone is going to like everything you do, and that's fine. What I say to everyone who works with me in my 90-Day Challenge program is you're not going to connect with everyone. You're not going to be a good fit for everyone, and vice versa. So don't feel bad if someone doesn't like your music. It's not necessarily a reflection of the quality of your music. Oftentimes, it just means they don't have a need for your particular style. Now, with that said, it might be that your music isn't good enough or isn't ready, and that's valuable feedback too. So if you're constantly submitting music to places and you're not getting well, if you're not being well received, that might be an indication that you need to work on your music. Either way, it's valuable feedback. So keep going and keep improving. Whether you can work on improving your music or keep connecting with new people. There's always something you can do on a daily basis. So keep doing something every day, and you're going to move forward. The 8th tip is do more research. And this is really important because, not everybody works with all styles of music. And depending on who you're, submitting your music to, they're going to have different needs. And the more you can hone in on people and companies that you're actually a really good fit for, the better your chances of actually connecting with someone. So you can research, there's, different ways to go about researching who needs what in terms of music, but you can do a lot online. Again, most publishers and some supervisors, not as many supervisors, but definitely publishers, most of them have websites, and they'll list their credits and they'll talk about what shows they work with and who their clients are. And you can simply listen to those shows, find out what kind of music they're using, and try to get a feel of where your music fits in. And if you can target those people that you're going to be a good fit for in advance, it makes everybody's job that much easier. And it kind of takes the randomness out of just knocking on doors blindly. Okay, number 9, the 9th tip is improve your presentation. And what I mean by this is, you want to put your best foot forward. So for example, if you're submitting a physical CD, if you're submitting a press kit, make sure it looks nice. People ask me what's best. Should I have a professionally manufactured CD, or can I just, burn a CD and write on it with a Sharpie? Well, obviously, if you have a professionally manufactured CD, that's going to look better. And does it make a difference? Yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, it does. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a prerequisite to licensing your music that you have to have, a pro CD. But I think everything you can do in general to present yourself more professionally, it's that much better. I mean, the more you can do to make yourself look professional and to let people know that, again, that you're serious about your career and you're serious about your music, I just think it sends the right signal. So obviously, everybody, has a different budget that they have to work with. So basically, put your best foot forward, do the best you can, given where you are at at this point in time. And finally, the 10th tip I have is leverage your past success. You'd be amazed how many people approach me, or even clients that I work with, who have actually had a lot of previous licensing success, but they don't tell me. And I think it's really helpful, especially if you're approaching music supervisors directly or even publishers, let them know, if you let them know about your past success. If you've already licensed your music and projects, it's really good to let people know about that because, it just sends the right signal and it lets people know that you've already had some success, which says a lot about your music and the marketability of your music. So, again, if you're submitting physical CDs, it's a good idea to have either a bio or what's called a one sheet where you just list all your credits and past placements. If you're emailing, just include a short paragraph that lists where your music has been heard and some of your accomplishments. I think those things are important. And even though ultimately it's about the music, still you kind of have to put yourself in the shoes of who you're submitting music to. And, imagine that if you're getting 100 submissions a week and, 5 of those people actually have already had their music in a film or multiple television shows, obviously you'd probably want to listen to those artists first. So leverage your past success and don't be afraid to brag, essentially about your accomplishments. So those are the 10 tips I have for you. I'm sure there's a lot more, but I think if you start with those 10 things, work on those areas, you're going to have a lot more success and you're going to license more of your music more often. For more information on how to license your music in television shows and films, check out my website, which is www.howtolicenseyourmusic.com.